This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights, closed captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today, we welcome Ali Swatek, Director of Policy and Research at the New York City Campaign Finance Board, or CFB. She's here to discuss ranked choice voting, how it works, and CFB's outreach to educate New York City voters about this voting method. Hi, Ali. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for inviting me on the show.
Well, thanks for joining us. Ali, let's start by talking about what ranked choice voting actually is.
Yeah, so ranked choice voting is a new way for New York City voters to elect their local representatives. Voters can rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference instead of just one. And in a ranked choice voting election, marking your ballot is super simple. You vote for your favorite candidate as your first choice. If you have a second favorite candidate, you vote for them second. And if you have a third favorite candidate, you vote for them third. I think you see where this is going. It's really that simple. What we've seen in other cities that use ranked choice voting, there's 17 other cities and states in the US, is that voters really like it because it gives them more say in who gets elected. Even if your top choice candidate does not win, you can still help choose who does. And it also impacts the way candidates campaign. They're less negative because they're also asking for a voter's second, third, fourth, and even fifth choice. So that means they have to be nicer to each other and each other's supporters. And then in other jurisdictions, it has also resulted in more diverse and representative candidates winning elections. So that's always great. And that's not to say that we haven't done a lot in New York City to elect diverse representatives, but you can always do better,
Absolutely. And you've made some really good points. When we think about voting without ranked choice, you have one choice, that's who you pick, that's all that goes in there. There's no other thought when it comes to, oh, what else is this person or constituent or community member thinking? So it does give the community a lot more of a voice, which is super important. And I think it gives the candidates themselves a lot more information about what's important to the voters. So when we talk about ranked choice voting, is this something that is statewide?
Right now, ranked choice voting is only available to New York City voters. Folks who are outside of New York will not be using ranked choice voting in the rest of the state. And this is because in 2019, 74% of general election voters voted to amend our city's charter to use ranked choice voting elections in place of single choice elections. So it's only in place for city offices.
So in 2021, what elected offices are going to be using ranked choice voting?
Because it's our charter, we only have jurisdiction to change how city offices are elected. So the city offices that will use ranked choice voting to elect them are mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and all 51 city council seats. And it's also only going to be used in special and primary elections. So it won't be used in state or federal races or in general elections, even for city office. And voters in the rest of New York State aren't impacted at all, just to reiterate.
Okay, and so change isn't always easy, right? So we're talking about a new voting system, and of course, there's been a lot of controversy over the last 3 or 4 months about voting and ballots. Will these ballots look different? Is there something that our audience members should be thinking about with the new ballot? Talk to us about what it looks like and how will things be different?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's like probably the top thing that I want people to take away is what the ballot's going to look like and how they can vote on it. So on our paper ballots, ranked choice voting is done basically on a grid. For some of us, it will look like if you remember using a Scantron grid when you took a standardized test in high school, it kind of looks like that a little bit. All the candidates who are running will be listed in rows, and there's a write-in option as well, still at the very bottom of that office list. And then there will be 5 columns, one for each of the rankings that voters can choose candidates for, labeled first choice, second choice, third choice, and so on up to 5. So to vote for a candidate, you fill in the oval next to their name in the column you want to rank them as. You don't want to give multiple candidates the same ranking. That will invalidate your ballot. Same as if you overvote in a single choice election, like you vote for 2 candidates for an office where you're only supposed to vote for them once. In ranked choice voting, you only want to vote for 1 candidate for each of your choices. And that's just really important to take away.
That is a really important point. I mean, there are people that do feel like they're split down the middle. They evenly support 2 or more candidates. However, that's not anything that they're able to do with this new system. And say there's 7 or 8 candidates. Are they limited to only 5? So if there's more than 5, you have to just work with 5 that you like the best.
Yeah, even though we're moving from a system where, you could only choose one candidate, you're still limited to 5 in ranked choice voting. The reason why is because most people can't keep track of more than 5 choices in their head at the same time. I know I can't. So you're limited to 5 candidates per contest, but it is up to you as the voter to decide whether you want to use all 5 of those rankings. Like, you can choose to only rank 3 or only rank 1 if that's your choice. And I think it's really important to remember, though, that you don't really get the benefits of ranked choice voting if you don't rank more candidates. And I'll explain that a little bit further when we get into like how the tabulation process works.
That's a great point, and I'm glad we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And I do want to clarify also. So if there are 5 candidates that you can rank, is the write-in candidate in addition to those 5, or does it have to be one of your 5?
The write-in candidate has to be one of your 5, and it works the same as it does now, where you just, write in the name of the candidate online. The only difference is that instead of voting for only that write-in candidate, you can vote for that write-in candidate, let's say for rank 1, and fill in the oval next to their name on your column 1, and then rank someone else for your second choice and rank another person for your third choice.
I think that having the ability to have a write in is going to encourage more people to write in if they can rank them as number 1. Oftentimes, a write in is people kind of feel like it's a throwaway because there's not maybe as much support or money behind that candidate. And I just want to clarify one more thing. So it sounds like we're talking about almost like a Scantron sheet that we would have had when testing in high school, maybe, or grammar school now, maybe. And so is it physically the same as that? Or is it the same size ballot that you would use in a general election, which seems to be like an 11 by 14 sheet of paper? Physically, what should people be looking at or looking for when they see this new ballot?
Yeah, the awesome thing is that basically the machine vendor who does our ballot scanners and creates our ballots has done ranked choice voting elections in other places. So we were able to use our exact same technology to do ranked choice voting, and the ballot is the same exact size. It basically looks exactly the same. The only difference is that instead of saying, vote for 1 here, you're going to have the columns indicating that you can rank up to 5 people. But the physical ballot itself, the size of it, even like what gets shown on the sides, all looks the same. The only difference is the instructions at the top describe a ranked choice voting election, and also you'll see the grid.
Great. That's leading right into the next question, which is about accessibility. So, people who maybe are using BMDs or need to pick up their ballot in a different way, they can still use the same ballot. Let's talk a little bit about accessibility because it is so important.
Yeah, so I learned about this from the City Board of Elections, their excellent Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator. She explained to me how the AutoMark ballot marking device is fully compatible with marking a ranked choice voting ballot. As we all know, the AutoMark doesn't print a ballot or anything, it marks the actual paper ballot and you feed it into the machine to do that. So on paper, RCV appears visually as a grid, but on the BMD for each office, for each choice, it's a separate screen. So, for example, for those of you who've used the BMD, instead of saying mayor, vote for 1, the screen will say mayor, choice 1 of 5, vote for 1, followed by the candidates for that contest, and of course, a write in option as well. On that screen, the voter will select their first choice candidate. Then, when the voter selects next, the next screen will state mayor, choice 2 of 5, vote for 1, followed by every candidate's name and the write-in option again. So on that screen, the voter would select their second choice candidate, and this continues until choice 5. So all of the BMD functionality is available in a ranked choice voting election, and the BOE is providing really excellent explanatory cards at polling sites that explain also how it works. So it's really great.
And so, Ellie, as we're talking about the accessibility of ranked choice voting, a big topic, of course, in the past 4 months is also absentee ballots. What should people expect if they are looking for an absentee ballot, and will it look the same as previous absentee ballots?
Yeah, so the absentee ballot will that you receive in the mail will look exactly like the paper ballot that you go to vote in person, similar to how we currently have absentee ballots look exactly the same as the ballots that we go to vote in person for single choice elections. I do want to mention that for the accessible absentee ballot, it has a bit of a different structure. The entire ballot appears on a single screen with each choice under a separate heading. So to rank the candidates in order of your choice, under the heading first choice, you click on the checkbox next to your first choice. Under the heading second choice, you click on the checkbox next to your second choice candidate, and so on. And there's a lot of great resources that explain how to do that on the City Board of Elections website. They have a whole accessibility section. So that'll definitely be one of the links.
Great information. Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure our audience members are wondering, so how does a ranked vote count? I mean, if you're able to vote for up to 5 people, they may think, well, how is this going to work? How do they tabulate the winner? Are they counting ones and twos? Let's talk a little bit about that and let our audience know how those votes are counted.
Yeah. So first things first, all ballots are counted, like in every election, and all first choice votes are tallied. Then there's kind of a fork in the road depending on if any candidate received a majority of votes. So if a candidate receives more than 50% of first choice votes, they win the election, same as they would under single choice voting. That race is decided. No one could get more votes than that person. But if no candidate earns more than 50% of first choice votes, counting continues in rounds. Each round, the losing candidate, the one with the fewest votes that round, is eliminated. If your top choice candidate is eliminated, your vote goes to the next highest ranked candidate on your ballot. And this process continues until there are only 2 candidates left and the candidate with the most votes wins. So for voters, understanding that ranked choice voting counting happens in rounds helps you to understand why you want to rank. And the reason you're ranking is because your first choice candidate, if they lose a round, your vote gets moved to your second choice candidate. Even if your top choice candidate does not win, you can still help choose who does. So I also encourage everyone with questions to go to our website, nyccfb.info/RCV, because I had to have that counting process explained to me more than once before I fully got it. And that's totally okay. You should definitely be able to find other ways that it's explained on our website. So we have a visual, we're going to have a video soon. And sometimes it's just helpful to be able to read it too.
Absolutely. And I think a video will be great. Oftentimes, if people see how something happens in action, they have a better understanding of how it will work. And of course, that was one of the questions that I was having as you were explaining it. I was thinking, okay, so does this mean that the rounds are actually based on numbers, not percentages? Like the number of votes for each candidate are going against each other from a top percentage down. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah. So the way that the first round works is there's that 50% threshold to determine whether a candidate, like I said, if a candidate has 51% of the votes, no matter if you go through the ranked choice voting process, no candidate's ever going to get more than that candidate who has 51%. That's just, I keep saying it's the law of percentages, but that just makes it clear that I've never taught math to anybody because I don't actually know what it's called. But what we know is that if you do enter the RCV tabulation counting process, if no candidate gets more than 50% in the first round, it's exactly how you just described. It's basically like every candidate is ordered from most votes to least votes. The candidate with the least votes loses that round. They're eliminated from the tally, and the voters who voted for that person, they get their next choice on their ballot counted. So then their votes redistribute. So the important thing to know too for voters is if your first choice candidate is never eliminated, then you never actually go to your second choice or third choice vote. And that's kind of just important to remember for when you're ranking people, you want to rank the candidate who you like the most. And it's okay if that candidate is maybe not going to be the candidate that wins at the end, because the person who maybe is going to win at the end, who's the most electable, who has the most support, but who you like less than your first choice candidate, you can always rank them second.
Right. Those are really good points to make. And we will put your contact information and the website in the description of this podcast. And so let's revisit and talk a little bit more about the upcoming elections that New York City voters should be aware of for ranked choice voting in 2021.
So we have a lot of special elections for city council coming up. One actually just happened a week ago in Council District 24 in Queens. Voters seem to really enjoy ranking candidates, so that was great. There's another special election in Queens coming up in Council District 31. That's on February 23rd. Early voting begins February 13th. And then we have 2 other specials coming up in the Bronx in Council Districts 11 and 15. Their specials are on March 23rd. Early voting begins March 13th. And then, of course, everyone registered to a political party holding a primary will be able to use ranked choice voting in the June 22nd primary election. And that's where you can vote for mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council on your ballot.
And I'm guessing that all of these elections are in fact on your website for people to be able to take a look at if they don't get it all through the podcast. And so just quickly, let's talk about again, which elections will not be part of ranked choice voting in New York City.
If you're coming to vote in June and you live in, for example, Manhattan or Brooklyn, I know have district attorney races on the ballot. The district attorney race will still be single choice. So make sure you flip your ballot because the single choice elections will be on the second page potentially. And you'll be able to vote for those other 5 offices using ranked choice voting. But just for folks to be aware of, district attorney, it's technically a state office or county office. And so that is a single choice election. And that's just one example. All state races and all federal races, again, are still using single choice.
Okay, good information to know. And if you end up having any trainings or information that you can send to us, we will be happy to post them on our social media platforms as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about information and getting it out to people. How is CFB educating the public on this information? What can people look forward to in order to learn more about this?
Yeah, so you already mentioned one of them. We host twice weekly Train the Trainer presentations on ranked choice voting. And those are for community organizations who want to know as much as possible so they can educate voters in their community. You learn enough that you can actually feel emboldened to explain it in the same way that I am doing right now. So that's really cool. We're also going to community events and talking to voters directly about ranked choice voting. If you want us to come talk to your group, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'll tell you the email address, and I hope you guys will post this too. But nycvotes@nyccfb.info is if you want us to come and talk to your group. And then we're doing a lot of mail outreach as well, because during COVID, of course, we can't do as much in-person events as we would normally do. So everyone in a special election district is getting a postcard in the mail reminding them that the election is happening, because sometimes that's half the battle. People don't really know that a special election is even taking place. And it also tells them a bit more about ranked choice voting. So folks should look out for those. And then ahead of June, everyone will be getting our incredible printed voter guide in the mail that will have a lot of RCV content as well. And then last but not least, we're doing a really robust advertising campaign. So you'll see our ads in community newspapers, on social media, even on TV, especially as we get closer to the June primary election. But it's not just us who's talking about ranked choice voting. The City Board of Elections is also talking about RCV, making sure voters know what to expect when they get to a poll site. A lot of elected officials are hosting trainings with us, and we had really fantastic turnout for 2 trainings held with the Queen's VP's office. And then organizations on the ground are also doing a lot of work to publicize ranked choice voting stuff. Just in the next week, Rank the Vote, Brooklyn Voters Alliance, the League of Women Voters, Dominicanos, and of course, Disability Rights New York too, are participating in some event that's going to publicize ranked choice voting or explain it to the public. So there are a lot of people talking about this.
It's really good information, and we'll be sure to list all of it. And so for those of you who may have questions regarding ranked choice voting, please refer to all the resources in the description of this podcast. Allie, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
You as well. Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next Wednesday, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed captioned and ASL version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. To listen to more Empire State of Rights closed captioned, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.